This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Welcome to Story Over Everything, episode 12 for February 31st, 2023. And the topic here is, what did I learn sprint writing 3 children's picture books? And yeah, that's the question I'm asking. So I'm not talking about anything pertaining to like a writing topic in general. I'm specifically talking about my Grow Book books and my experience writing 3, 4, and 5 in about 3.5 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, depending on how you slice it. So anyway, I'll just jump right into it. I don't have any questions for you as an audience, unless you're a writer and you found yourself writing things at a sprint or in spurts very fast, how that's gone for you. Do you advise against writing in spurts or sprints, or do you advise for it? And what's your best word count? What's your best creativity? That kind of thing. I would be curious to know those sorts of things. So if you have that input, then go ahead and leave a comment for me, but I'll leave it at that, and I will get into the topic. So yeah, I for a while, maybe probably over a year, I had a script written for one of the Grow Book books. Then as time went on and life moved on, maybe it was 2 years actually, my wife told me, hey, you should do a book for this kid, and you shouldn't have 2 girls in a row in these books, because I was going to do 3 or 4, I don't know. And then I got the bright idea to say, oh, okay, well, I'll just switch it up. I'll start with a boy, then I'll have a girl book, then another girl book, then a boy book, then a girl book. Or is that how it goes? Anyway, doesn't matter. I think it's a boy, 3 girls, and then a boy. Yeah, that's how it goes. And I figured that's fine, because we didn't want it to be a girl series. It's a boy and girl series, because it's good for both types of kids, because it's universal. It's about not being afraid of the dark. It's about dealing with hard, scary things as a kid, being brave, having courage, being able to adapt and deal with things, and getting over your own emotional hangups. That's what the Grow Book series is about, basically. And I'm using magical guardian angel bugs and tokusatsu type stuff to translate that. One of my, just as a quick aside, one of my favorite seasons of Kamen Rider is Forze, which takes place in an American-style high school in Japan. It's like a magnet school or something like that. It's a weird, different school. It's experimental on purpose, and they've got crazy cliques, and it's extreme. It's designed to push the already hormonal and emotional teenagers to the max by putting them in an American-style school, which is kind of a funny conceit, because it is partially admitting how awful the Prussian style of schooling is. But I won't get distracted by that, and I'll just say it's very interesting because these young people get a taste of power, and it allows them to turn into monster people, basically, and they're able to use their abilities as monster people to seek out their own petty revenge over various things. And at some point, the power becomes too much. It takes over them, and it turns them into a husk of themselves, and the monster becomes the dominant individual, and they will die and just become a monster and be a shell of their former selves for the rest of, forever, if the hero can't save them. And the hero does save them by transforming into if you were going to make a man into a spaceship, but it was if you were to make a man into a ship, if you were to combine the idea of a spacesuit, an actual spacesuit, and a rocket ship, and combine that into one thing, that's what this guy is. His head literally looks like the top of a rocket with little wings on it. Anyway, very funny, or very interesting. It is very funny. Anyway, this guy actually beat up the negativity and the heartlessness of his fellow schoolmates until he was able to destroy that thing that came out of them, and was able to kind of clear the air and help the people come back to themselves and make amends with the people who they hurt, and be able to move on and get back to living a normal life as a teenager and as a good, productive person who doesn't hurt other people because they're hurt. Incredible stuff. So I'm kind of taking that and combining that ideology or that perspective with this series of books that I read for my children at one point. So it's the Way I Feel series of books, and it's basically, how can a sci-fi fantasy adventure teach kids how to deal with their emotions, or show other kids dealing with their emotions by having empathy and compassion for others and things like that. That's what the series is about. So it was originally just going to be a couple, but I expanded it, and I said I'm going to go hardcore, and I just sat on the ideas. I wrote a second book, and a second book unexpectedly, which really was the third book that I wrote, and then I went back and I finished book number 2 as part of this sprint into writing the remaining 3 books of the set of 5 that I have. But it's a little confusing, a little hyper-technical, but basically I wrote the books out of order, and I had been sitting on the ideas for so long that I decided one day, late in January, maybe mid-January, all right, in the month of February or March, I am going to write 1 book a week. It was in February I decided. I'm going to write 1 book a week in the month of February, and I'm just going to get these books done. And what happened when I decided to do that, excuse me, I'm coughing because I'm talking so much. What happened when I did that is I pushed myself to basically finish 1 book a week. The goal was for the manuscripts to be about 1,000 words. One of them clocks in at 2,000 words, and the others are around 1,000. I don't know, 1,000, 1,500, that kind of thing. But one of them is 2,000. So I got to go back and maybe trim some things down. But then again, I'm self-publishing, so maybe I can do it in whatever format I want. If it's more verbose, 1 book than the others, then, you know, that's what you do. You just know when you're reading those kids of yours, this is the long one. We can't read it tonight. We can't read these 2 back to back. It's got to be the middle book that we read, and then whatever. I'm distracting myself. But what I learned was that I can just push myself to put words down, and I wasn't going for word count. I was going for story content. So what I did was I took a day or 2 and I mulled over my idea. I came up with a theme to wrap a theme to be the core of the story, the emotional core of the story. I did theme. I was going to do goal, motivation, and conflict. I started with that originally. I did it with one of the 3 books, and then I just said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to state my theme, and I'm going to have everything centered around that theme. And after I have the theme stated for myself, the next thing I'll do is I'll just say in 1 sentence or a couple sentences, what's the beginning of my story, what's the middle of my story, then what's the end of my story. And then, because children's picture books are typically 32 pages or 16 spreads, as I like to refer to it, because I like to have the image on one side or an image on either side, and then text either on the opposite side of that or text under both, and it's on both pages. I decided I'll just do 16 bullet points, and those 16 bullet points will carry me through and give me the 32 pages that I need, and it's basically a 16-point story. And what I was able to do was I took and I copied and pasted my beginning, my middle, my end, and I fleshed out my beginning into 2 to 4 points. I fleshed out my end or my middle into a couple points, or in roughly 10 points, and then I fleshed out my end into a couple points as well. So kind of the format that I came up with after or in doing that, and I wasn't even realizing that I was doing that really, is that my format was introduce the character, the character and the conflict, sort of, or their issue that they're having. Introduce the kid, the character, and their personal issue that they're having. This kid is angry, this kid is lonely, this kid is selfish, this kid is whatever, right? Then throw them into a supernatural threat or experience with one of these malicious creatures that the grow bug, the magical guardian angel thing, is going to come and defend them against. And then basically escalate the tension, make it tough, make it scary, make the kids struggle. And as I'm doing that, work in somehow to bring the grow bug into the story and have the grow bug basically either make the kid face their fear or the crisis. The grow bug basically makes the kid face their crisis and helps them resolve it with encouragement mostly, and a little bit of actual defense and tactics, because they are under attack from these things that are either evil and malicious that have come to get them, or through their selfishness and through their immaturity, they've basically put themselves into a situation where they are imperiled, and the grow bug protects them from that. But really, ultimately, the solution comes from the child having an epiphany and getting over whatever is causing the issue, and then they're able to resolve it fairly quickly. But still, some of them it's more work than others, but it's they struggle. They basically struggle through like 80% of the book, and the last 20%, or there's like an intro, then, which is a tiny percentage of the book, maybe 10%, and then they struggle for like 75, and then the 15% left over is them overcoming it quickly, and then having a resolution, and then moving on from there, basically, and the grow bug leaves. But that's been my basic format, and And there's going to be a lot of noise right now. So anyway, that's the basic format. So I've been doing that, and then honestly, for most of the books, I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. And as I fleshed out my beginning, my middle, and my end into those broader points, it helped me direct where the story was going. And I was basically able to expand, my middle into about 10 points and my beginning and end into, 3 and 3, let's just call it for simplicity's sake. And I was able to say, well, these are my 16 points for the story. And I just went ahead and wrote them out as best I could. I usually I have liked in the past, and it's embarrassing. I have a project that I worked on for 3 years or more that I came up with all these ideas for these characters, and I wrote a manuscript around that, a children's thing, and then I totally scrapped it, and I've rewritten that manuscript 2 or 3 times. The 3rd or 4th version of it, I'm finally satisfied with, and I will not be changing it. If I ever produce it, I don't know that I will for sure. I'll probably use that. Actually, I might actually rewrite that because of other things that have happened since I've developed and turned that, the germ of that, into a bigger idea for, something more, series of books, pulp novel type stuff. But anyway, I won't get into that right now. But I made myself write 3 manuscripts where I didn't know key things. I didn't know the characters' names for the Growbugs specifically. I was making up the children's names as I was going along, basically. I made the decision not to name their parents or any of their relatives, except for the other Growbug kids, because they all happen to be cousins and siblings. Cousins or siblings, they're all related. I made the decision to just call their parents, so-and-so's mom or so-and-so's dad, and just leave it at that. And, what are these enemies called? I don't know what these enemies are called. I know what it is. It's a ghost-like thing. Or it's it's a monster inside of a video game. I just pushed myself to just write, and I was able to, because I knew the theme, I think because I knew the theme, and I knew basically the emotional arc the kid was having, I was able to write out the story and then come back to it and add more stuff in. And in fact, writing like this, once I got to book 5, I actually had to go back and rewrite book 2 because I needed to add in an element to really put across what I was doing and what I was having the kids do in this idea of transformation that comes from tokusatsu. And that's, something that's key to this whole project, this whole series. And like I said, I had to go back and add it in, and I'm glad I did, and I'm glad I didn't push myself to publish the books one by one, and I wanted to write them all together so I could unify them, because doing this has allowed me to create the unity in them, and I was able to go back and punch up that script. And in fact, I went into books 1 and 2 recently. This is like a week or 2 after I finished book 5, the first draft of it. Actually, it was the second draft because I threw away the first draft and then totally rewrote it as I was going through, because I just wasn't satisfied with what I had going at that point. And I'd written about a third of it, and then I scrapped it and rewrote it. But I've now since gone back and I'm plugging in. I figured out how to name my Growbugs. I figured out how to name some of the villains or some of the enemies that they face, and I've gone back and I've plugged those things in, and I really like it because I do have a consistency and I do have a unity. It's almost like I planned the whole thing out from the beginning, but I didn't have to plan it all out from the beginning. I just had to have a broad idea and go and write, and then I learned that I can come back afterwards and insert that other stuff, and I can come back afterwards and add those elements that were missing, and it's okay because they're all in draft form. And I don't know if that means how with my other content, I'm planning to do stuff in advance and batch it and then just release it on a schedule if I need to do that sort of thing, or what. And that might be what I have to do. And I think I'm willing to do that. As I started, as I was working on this project, it came to me that I should actually do a full-on prose novel, or novella, or a middle grade or chapter book novel, somewhere between a chapter book and a middle grade novel. I think altogether I have 7,000 words so far for the 5 Growbug books put together, and I developed an idea of how to reuse those, which they're picture book manuscripts, how to reuse those by adapting them or dropping them almost straight into a larger narrative that has these stories that are told, where stories are being told to younger, initiate Growbug, I guess you could say, or Growbugs in training. And and then there's a bigger narrative around it. And I would start off by introducing the reader to the world of grow bugs, or to the fact that there are grow bugs in the world, and have like an insight and a peek into kind of grow bug society, or whatever you want to call it. And it's basically, it'd be an introduction to the world. And then in that, I could, after that's all done, I could say, look, and there's these picture books too. So if this is just a textbook with an image on the front and maybe a black and white image on the head of every chapter or something like that, where you can also get, if you like this, there's the other version of it, which is the picture book version. But I'm still undecided if I'm just going to drop the text straight in from the manuscript, or if I will rewrite the stories from the grow bug's perspective or not, because especially for one of them, there's a lot I could write or rewrite in order to add it there. And maybe, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do, but that's like 7,000 words, like I said. And I think I read that a children's picture book or a middle grade book can be, I want to say, somewhere between 10,000 words and 30,000 words. And I feel like I could either write 30 or 20,000 more words, or I'm sorry, 3 to 20,000 more words to flesh out the rest of the story, especially for the ideas I have. And I basically already have an outline for that. And I was going to stop and be content with the grow bug books as they are now. But I think actually what I'm going to do, I don't think they'll change very much, but that I could be wrong, because I didn't think my second grow bug book was going to change very much. Basically, I'm in a place where I never thought I would be with these books, and I'm going to pause. This is what I've learned. I'm going to learn to pause and slow down, take it easy, let my drafts sit for a little while after I've punched them all up and finished going through all 5 books to edit and bring them into unity with each other. And then once they're pretty well polished and I think they're going to be done, then I'll stop and I'll go ahead and write the prose, the prose book, the short book. I'll call it that. I'll call it a short book for now, whether that's chapter book or middle grade book, middle grade novel, I guess, whatever. I'll write that, and then I will consider taking elements from that are new and adding them to the picture books as well. Will I actually add those elements in? I couldn't tell you right now. Do I think my manuscripts are good as they are right now without adding more stuff into them? Yes. I think each book has a lot going on, and as they go on, they get kind of more exciting and more full of adventure, which is good. And I don't know if that's going to push me to add more into the previous books or what it'll do, but I think I've learned that it's good to give yourself the time. Well, push yourself to work hard and to work fast. Do not push yourself to publish very fast, I think is what I'm learning. Because in the past, I would have been tempted to just put these out. And I might put them out like in blog form on my website and just say, look, here's manuscript 1 for this book. And the same with the others. And then go from there as I'm, getting them, as I'm working on it. I want to be putting that out there and, drawing some attention to it. But that's not really what I'm focused on. And maybe I'll even do that with them as they are after I finish this round of edits and polishing up. And then I'll give myself the time to rework or to work them into the short novel. And, excuse me. And I might let that inform what I have in the 5 books, but I do not know for sure. But I'm also going to learn I've learned to be fast and loose and to play with things and ride them out and see how they go. Because had I not tried to push myself to write these 3 books so quickly, because I want to get everything published in 2023, then I wouldn't be able to, or I wouldn't be here where I am now. And I'm hoping that this will help transition me into writing my pulp novels. And I'm not saying I'll try to write 12 pulp novels at once, but I'm training myself in like basing a story in the theme, developing an outline from just a simple beginning, middle, end statement. And I'm going to have to see how long I can, like how far I can push that formula for myself, that creative process for myself. Yeah, I'll have to see. So it's kind of humbled me. It's kind of made me a little nervous to just jump into writing pulp novels. But I'm also, I'm going to write a short novel, and pulp novels are short. So if I can write a 25,000 word short novel that is geared towards kids or young readers, and it works for this grow bugs, then
I'm halfway there to writing a pulp novel, which is going to be aged up a little bit and can have more content in it. And I'm designing the whole thing myself. So that'll be really interesting. And yeah, that's more speculative than I wanted to be. I just wanted to be reflective right now and talk about what I have taken away from this experience. And it's been a good experience. I'd be willing to do more like it in the future. More things like it in the future. And maybe I will, well, I'm not sure what I'll do. I need to think about it some more. But that's basically where I'm at for now. I also do, well, there's going to be a little outro about my books, checking out my books. But aside from the books, I do analysis and art on mjmunoz.com, which you could find. I have analysis going into several things, books, TV shows, whatever, and art based on that. Basically all tokusatsu-inspired superhero art is what I do. So I'll have kind of like fan art that my kids ask me to make that I'll post up there, but then there's also my own original creations that are going to be used for my stories that will be posted up there as well. So you can look for both of those things on mjmunoz.com as well as the actual books, which you're about to hear about from past me, actually. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I leave you with peace and blessings. If you enjoyed me talking about the writing process, then hopefully you'll enjoy reading or listening to my writing instead. So go over to mjmunoz.com or mjmunoz.com/books and check out what I have there. My plan is to keep that updated all the time with the latest and greatest of my writing, whether that be books, audiobooks. You should be able to buy direct from me there. And yes, so please go ahead over there to mjmunoz or mjmunoz.com/books and check out all the good stuff I have to offer there.